Hey, how you doing? I wanted to share a few nuggets of information with you regarding Preacher Corner. The first thing I want to cover is about how we witness to each other. We'll call this Witnessing 101 segment. What I've noticed with some people that I know, personally, that I've known for years, but I think is very flawed about their view, but I want to not going to give you their name and all because I'm not going to divulge that, but I'm going to speak directly to them out of love and with understanding, and hopefully they'll get an understanding, and I hope they understand what I'm saying. Because I don't mean anything harmful by it. But what I see is something that's very disturbing, and that I see that some in evangelical churches teach, that when they witness that they have to befriend or become friends with everybody who they witness to. And if they don't become friends to them, then they take it personal, and they just toss them over to the side. Or if they don't agree with what they say, because they have differences in beliefs, like I do from their beliefs, and theirs are different from mine, I don't merely toss them over to the side. I don't cast them out. I don't disfellowship them. I love them, but we're all learning together. That's really what it's all about, essentially. But what our goal, basically, in the lesson here, is to really witness to Christ and let God do the increase. You know, we're out to plant the seed, basically, to make a work or invoke a work within us. But it's only supposed to project Jesus through us. Not whether we get a friend out of it or not, or we gain a new family member. Because, you know, I know this person, they'll say Brother Jay, Brother Saeed, Brother Abraham. And, you know, every time this person will witness to people at the store, they think that if they're not a friend with them because they witness to them, they think they have to be friends. But it's not about that. It's about impacting them with Jesus Christ. If you get a friend out of it, that's great. But if you don't, you'll get a lot of acquaintances out of it. And that may be why some people don't call you once every 3 weeks, or once every 8 weeks, or once every month, or maybe once every other week. It's not because they don't like you. It's because they don't want to be that type with you. They just want to see how things are going with you. They give you encouragement, for you to be a source of encouragement for them. Because not all people, when you witness to them, want to be close like that with you. They just want to know about Jesus. So they get tapped into it. And that way you can be a source of encouragement for one another. It's just like Jesus, he had 12 disciples when he began. And then Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver and sold him over to the government. Like right now, he's locked up. You know, he's been beaten, he's locked up. And waiting to be crucified on Friday. All right? And that's how that happened. Because he betrayed Jesus for 30 shekels of silver. Well, see? So then there were two more disciples. There was Barnabas, and then there was Paul. Now, another nugget I like to share about Paul. Paul was riding on the road to Damascus to go, you know, because he had a reputation before he was Paul. He was Saul of Tarsus. He would go and kill people because he had the background of Roman centurion. That's what he was. His family was very well involved with that. Very knowledgeable, the best education that money could buy of that day. And he was interconnected and very influential with the people of that time. Meaning, like, he would go around, and he was like an official of the government. And he would go around and kill people. And he thought, you know, at first that's what he was supposed to do. Because he thought that, you know, that he was doing the right thing. But then his conscience began to get very waylaid and heavy. The Bible records it would keep him up at night. He would lose sleep. At a point towards the end before he was converted, he couldn't eat or even sleep. Because apparently people were praying for him. Like we're told today to pray for people in our governments all around the world. So that maybe they may be changed for Christ, just like Paul was. Now, Paul didn't want God to be in his life, because some people teach this philosophy that God gets whatever he wants no matter what. And God will take over your life and take over your body whether you want him or not. No, the Bible doesn't teach us that way. And I can tell you it doesn't, because God gives us free will. Now, the reason why they think that is because they think that free will doesn't exist. They think everything's pre-mapped out for us. Well, like I've always said, if that's true to these people, then why do we have to think what we're going to wear, or what shoes are we going to wear, or what we're going to eat, or how we're going to get to work or school? Why do we have to think about all these different things if everything was predestined for us, like some people teach in a twisted doctrinal views and thinking? No, God gives us an innate divine choice to do things on our own because it's a nature on how he made us to be in his own image. He gives us the ability to make decisions and make choices. To follow him or to deny him is the choice he gives us. If we want to deny him, Paul, he could have denied him on the road to Damascus and said, Lord, leave me alone. Get away from me, God. I can't stand you crazy. Get away from me. And then God would have found somebody else. But God knew the very condition of his heart spiritually where he standed, because he was being terrorized and being tormented and very annoyed, and it was lay heavy on his heart, like some translations say, before this event took place. And we read about this, that Paul was having trouble, could sleep at night, being awoke at night because of these things he was doing, questioning what he was doing. He cried out to God and said, Lord, show me something. If there is really a Jesus, is this the right thing to do? And then Jesus did show him it. He came to him with a big bright light. People saw that. People heard a loud clap of thunder. While everybody else heard thunder, he lost his sight, and he heard the words of Jesus, comforting, telling him that you'll be blind for 3 days. Go meet a eunuch and do what he says, and your sight will be immediately restored. And that's what he did. And his life was there changed because God knew and identified that he really had a need and could see the spiritual condition of his heart, his soul, unlike we can't, but Jesus can. And that's why he became Paul. He was Saul, but then he was after he went to go see the eunuch, the Ethiopian eunuch, he was transferred from that to that horrible man to a wonderful, zealous Christian for Christ. And that's how God works with us when we're planting seeds at the store, at Walmart, or BJ's, or wherever we go. You know, it's not about whether we gain a friend out of it. It's like my Uncle Dave said. I love him to death. You know, I love him like a second father. He's been like a daddy to me. You know, they helped me out, but even if he didn't, his words, the nuggets of wisdom he shared with me are profound. The same person that taught E.L. what he knows. You know, I look up to my Uncle David and Aunt Sharon. I love them. They're not perfect. I'm not either, but they're my family. And they are wonderful people for Christ. You know, it's not about at the end how we do something. It's us planting a seed to get them to know Christ is what Uncle Dave shared with me. It's not about whether we gain a friend out of it or a relationship out of it. Sometimes that happens. It's a bonus. But the whole thing is always the centered, Christ-centered and focused is what it really is about. It's not about whether we gain a friend out of it or not. My uncle said, tell you the truth, Michael, most of the people that come to Pole Green Church of Christ are really not my friend. I'm not even close to them. But because they have a relationship with Christ and they share in the vision of Pole Green and they share in the cause that Pole Green is doing and they identify with what I'm doing, they love me and they love me as a minister. And that's why they come here. But out of a few, like my elders and deacons that are here, that are serving under, that we're working together as colleagues and as brothers in Christ Jesus. We are intimately involved as friends. We share everything together. We do everything together. We go out to the park. We share things. We go over people's houses and have our meetings in their homes, like the people did in the Bible. A lot of churches today of Christ and even other denominations who have this structure in their church aren't even like that. And Paul says that's a disaster. But my uncle says, just like the language says in the Bible, that Jesus had 12 disciples but ended up with 14 because Judas Iscariot betrayed him for 30 pieces of silver. And then he committed suicide. And then we had Barnabas coming, and then we had Saul Tarsus, which became Paul. That's where we get 14. So, that's the mystery behind all that. And the thing is, that's how it is today. You know, it's not about gaining a family member of Jesus and them all being your friend because you talk to them about Christ. Some people have acceptance issues and mental issues, and they get this idea in fantasy or think, or even some people teach us that all people must be your friend in order for them to be, you know, after you talk to them. And it's not how it's taught in the Bible. So a lot of times you get a lot more acquaintances, like my uncle said, like I said, because that's mostly what are in the Church of Christ, and they're friendly and they'll share intimate details with you because you're the preacher and that's their job. But that most of the people at the end of the day are just acquaintances who really love you and they agree with you. And some of them do become friends because I have a lot of friends that are here, but I have more acquaintances than I do friends. And he just told me the truth like that. And I could, I felt I was, broadly awakened. And I felt it's discovered because my uncle shared something with me that a lot of preachers don't really share, in the faith. but it's true. Every church, if you're truthful about it, that's really how it is. Not everybody in your church. You may know a lot of things about everybody in your church, but only a few of them, your elders and deacons are closest to you. They should be. If they're not, then you need to reevaluate it. And you need to have classes on it, because that's the way they should be. And then you might have some other people that are outside of those groups that you're gotten friends with. But not everybody in the church is buddy. Let's go, gather around the preacher every time he has something. So some people are. But they do come because they agree with what you're doing. Mostly are acquaintances. They're observers. Most of them, and that's how they were in Jesus' day. A lot of them came because they came for the food, or a lot of them came for the real spiritual food of God, of the message. But some of them only came for the show and the miracles. That's why Jesus said to them, as a stern warning, that you don't come here for me to feed you food. You come here to be fed by the word, or spiritual food. Because the food that I give you will be food that will give you eternal life. But the food that I give you here is only taking away your hunger. Like when the loaves that the boy had, the 4 loaves of barley and the 2 fish, or maybe the other way around. But he came with that 11-year-old boy and gave it to Jesus, and then they did a miracle of multiplication because all the people were hungry. And they had 7 baskets of food that were left over, of all the scraps and left over, and they, I guess, used it for other things, because they often would do that. Jesus would do miracles even though they weren't recorded, and he would often miraculously feed people. But that was one that was recorded where he fed 5,000 women and children. All the men, but it didn't say nothing about the children or the women. So there probably were like around 15,000 there. That's why we say that. We don't really know, because there was a big group of people there. And then that's why Jesus made that comment, because it's not about all the miracles why you come, or because I can feed you out of 4 loaves of barley, or 2 loaves of barley and 4 fish, or 2 fish and 4 loaves of barley. But it's about the message that I give you. That's the most reason why you come. See, that's why people come to church. It's not all about being friends. The goal is to get them to Christ and let God transform their heart, like my Uncle Dave shared with me. And he taught me that concept. And then if they want to be your friend, that's an added bonus. But that's not the goal why you teach them or reach them for Christ. So think about that. If you are being like that, where you think everybody has to be your friend, and if they don't talk to you and you take it personal, then you may need to reevaluate your life and reevaluate those things with the Lord, because that's not scriptural, and it's like you want the glory more so than Christ does, the way you come across. And it's not about you, what you get out of people, but it's what Jesus Christ can use to emulate through you to impact others that you come in contact with, to get them to know Him, Christ, personally, intimately, so it can change your life forever, like He did with Saul of Tarsus to Paul. So there, Spiritual Corner today. I love you. Stay strong. Shalom. See you later.